Most people assume that if a global war breaks out, or if a nuclear related crisis happens anywhere in the world, governments will immediately issue clear instructions. This belief is understandable, but it is also incomplete. Not because governments lack concern, but because modern cities operate at a scale where instant protection of millions of civilians is not practically possible. This is true not only for India, but for every densely populated country. This video is not about predicting war, forecasting disasters, or spreading fear. It is about awareness. Specifically, about understanding what protection realistically looks like for ordinary Indians. Civilian safety planning has historically been shaped by experience. Countries that faced direct civilian devastation in the 20th century built civil defense infrastructure early. These nations invested in public shelters, underground bunkers, evacuation drills, and simple, repeatable instructions for citizens. Their policies were shaped by trauma and direct experience. India's trajectory after independence was different. The country emerged from colonial rule with urgent priorities: feeding a large population, building industry, establishing institutions, and maintaining stability in a volatile region. Resources were limited, and large-scale civilian attacks were considered highly unlikely. Strategic deterrence was seen as sufficient protection. These decisions were not careless or uninformed. They were shaped by the realities of that era. However, cities have grown rapidly since then. Urban density has multiplied, infrastructure has become more complex, and risks today look very different from those of the mid-20th century. Awareness must therefore evolve with time. Even without public bunkers or nationwide shelter systems, India is not without meaningful protection. One of the most important advantages Indian cities have is the widespread use of reinforced cement concrete construction. RCC buildings are structurally robust. They absorb shock waves better than glass-heavy steel structures. They reduce flying debris and provide insulation from heat when people use the right internal spaces. Safety in extreme situations depends less on the building's height or appearance and more on where a person positions themselves inside it. Basements with proper ventilation, ground floors, internal stairwells, and windowless rooms offer significantly better protection than rooftops, balconies, or glass-lined areas. India also has limited underground infrastructure, including deep metro stations, underground parking areas, and service tunnels. While these were never designed as shelters, depth combined with thick concrete provides real protective value. Another often overlooked advantage is India's social structure. Families live together, neighbors are nearby, and communities are interconnected. In many global emergencies, social isolation has caused more harm than lack of supplies. Calm coordination, shared information, and collective decision-making save lives. To make this discussion practical, it is important to examine how different Indian cities function. Delhi is unique because it has some of the deepest underground metro stations in the country. Stations such as Chowri Bazaar, Hauz Khas, and Kashmir Gate extend 20 to 30 meters below ground and are surrounded by thick reinforced concrete. In many countries, stations of similar depth are explicitly designated as emergency shelters. However, Delhi's coverage is uneven. Large portions of the metro network are elevated, open air, and surrounded by glass-heavy structures. The practical rule in Delhi is therefore situational. If you are near a deep underground station, going inside and remaining there offers meaningful protection. If you are on an elevated line, it is safer to move away from open structures and glass and towards solid concrete buildings. Delhi's primary challenge is not the absence of strong structures, but the lack of public guidance on how to use them during emergencies. Mumbai represents a different urban reality. The city does not yet have deep underground metro systems at scale, but it has dense RCC construction and closely packed residential areas. Mumbai's most significant risk during emergencies is uncontrolled crowd movement rather than structural failure. Narrow streets, congestion, and panic driven movement can significantly increase injury risk. In many cases, remaining inside well chosen internal spaces, such as stairwells, corridors, or windowless rooms, is safer than rushing outdoors. Mumbai's strength lies in its strong community networks and shared spaces. When people remain calm and informed, these social structures significantly improve resilience. Hyderabad represents India's newer urban centers. It features modern infrastructure, elevated metro lines, glass-heavy office buildings, and expansive tech parks. These designs are efficient and attractive for daily life, but introduce different risks during extreme events. Glass can shatter across large distances, and open spaces can amplify shock waves. In office environments, moving away from windows and toward internal concrete cores and stairwells is critical. Hyderabad's construction quality is strong, but increased underground planning in future projects would further enhance safety. There are also several dangerous assumptions that must be addressed. In a large-scale crisis, evacuation for everyone is not realistic. Emergency services will prioritize hospitals, power stations, and critical infrastructure. Mobile networks may become overloaded and misinformation will spread rapidly. This is not a failure of governance. It is a matter of scale. No country can instantly manage millions of civilians simultaneously. That is why individual awareness matters. Every household should understand its building layout, identify the safest internal spaces, and prepare basic supplies for the first 48 hours. This preparation is not exclusive to war scenarios. It is equally useful during floods, cyclones, earthquakes, and extended power outages. In emergencies, moving too early often increases risk. Waiting calmly for verified information saves lives. The word nuclear often triggers fear, shaped by popular media rather than scientific reality. Modern nuclear doctrines focus on deterrence and limited escalation, not total annihilation of cities. Survival depends on distance from the event, the type of shelter used, and the amount of time spent indoors. Concrete barriers and time dramatically reduce exposure. These principles are based on decades of research and observation. The objective in such situations is not to flee cities, but to minimize exposure during the most dangerous period and allow emergency systems to stabilize. Looking ahead, India is already investing heavily in new metros, smart cities, industrial corridors, and large infrastructure projects. This presents an opportunity to integrate safety planning into development. Underground safe zones in large complexes, emergency ventilation systems, clear public safety signage, and basic civil preparedness education can significantly improve resilience. This is not criticism of the nation. It is a natural progression as urban environments modernize. Strong societies adapt as conditions change. This discussion is not about fear, blame, or alarm. It is about modern awareness. India is resilient, and Indian citizens are capable. Preparedness improves when people understand what exists, what does not, and how to act calmly. Sharing this knowledge is an act of responsibility, not panic. If you value clear, factual, India-focused analysis that helps people think ahead without fear, preparedness is not panic. Preparedness is awareness. Subscribe to Beyond Now India.